Welcome back to our little weekend reflection on the scriptures. As you know, this is the sixth of the ones we've been doing since the beginning of January this year. First of all, looking at the lectionary that we have every Sunday and how it's structured, then looking at the shape of the New Testament. And then this is the fourth of the weeks that we've spent looking at one of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke. And today I want to look with you at the Gospel of St. John. And it's one that figures a lot during the Lenten season and during the weeks after Easter. The Gospel of St. John, as we call it, is part of 5 books in the New Testament that are associated with St. John. There's the Gospel of St. John, then there are 3 letters, the first letter of John, second letter of John, third letter of John, and then there's the book of Revelations, the Apocalypse, the very last book of the Bible, all of which are attributed to this man, John. But I think it's useful to look at the last few verses of the 20th chapter of John's Gospel to answer a question: why did John write all of this material? Why did he gather stories together in his Gospel? And he's quite clear. He's written it not as history, he's written it so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. That's the only purpose John is telling all these stories about Jesus, all these words about the Word of God. So the Gospel's always not a story, not a history, not a biography. It's always an invitation for you to recognize that Jesus is Lord. Now, we've talked at an earlier stage about the 3 synoptic Gospels, as we call them, Matthew, Mark and Luke, which try in some ways to be a life of Jesus with his teachings and his miracles divided up in certain ways. But John's Gospel actually has far fewer events, but with much deeper reflections, not on what Jesus did or said, but on the meaning of who Jesus is. So we find in his Gospel, the word miracle is never used, but there are 7 signs of who Jesus is. And then there are 7 occasions on which Jesus says, I am. And as many of you will remember from the Old Testament, from the book of Exodus, when Moses asks God at the burning bush, who are you? He says, I am. And using that phrase for a Jewish audience very clearly meant saying, I am the Son of God, I am divine. So the 7 signs, there you have them there in front of you. The wedding feast at Cana that happened right at the very beginning of the public ministry of Jesus. The healing of a noble man's son. A sick man at the pool of the sheep pool in Bethlehem, in Jerusalem, multiplication of the loaves and the fishes, Jesus walking on the water, the man born blind, and there's a long chapter about that. He is able to recognize who Jesus is, and the ones who can see are unable to accept who Jesus is. And then the final of those 7 signs of who Jesus is the raising of Lazarus from the dead. Okay, and then there are 7 times where Jesus says, I am. There you have them there. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the gate for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth and the life. And I am the true vine. So in all of those, you have a deep assertion of who Jesus is for you, for us as his followers. It's not just saying, my name is Jesus, I am the son of a carpenter. It's about saying, I am in divine terms. And then we have a whole series of meditations, I said, on the meaning of Jesus' life. That conversation with Nicodemus about being born again of water and the Spirit. A deep reflection on that. The Samaritan woman who comes looking for water at the well, she the outcast, and Jesus tells her he will give her living water. The Eucharistic bread in chapter 6, I am the bread of life, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood. Strong language. Then the man born blind, I am the light of the world. Lazarus, the resurrection and the life. And then Jesus talking about himself being the way, the truth and the life. And Jesus himself being the vine. Those last 2 are during the long address that he has with his disciples at the Last Supper. And one other characteristic of St. John's Gospel is the idea of Jesus being the Word. It goes beyond the notion about words about God. Jesus is the Word. So that gospel begins, John's gospel begins, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then later on in that chapter you have, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Now the strong language about living in Jesus, living in God, and God the Father and Jesus coming to live in us. It's a very profound, reflective, meditative gospel, the fruit of decades of reflection on who Jesus was and how he communicated himself, and how John and the community round about him wanted to let people know that Jesus is the Son of God. So, can I ask you just to meditate over the course of the next week, even if you're in doubt about your own faith. Thomas, you remember, didn't believe that Jesus had risen till he met him. Are you prepared to take the risk and say with Thomas, my Lord and my God? May that be your prayer this week as we prepare to move on into the letters of St. Paul, please God, next week. Enjoy journeying with the scriptures and getting to know Jesus so much better. God bless you.